Unlearning Fear. Sounds easy, doesn't it? It's not. It's not at all. Because it's very deep in us, fear, and it's very justified. That's one of the ways fear perpetuates itself, justification. Oh, you've got to be careful, you've got to watch out for yourself, you've got to take care, look at history. And that's all valid. To a degree. But spiritual life goes, you're going to be dead sometime. And that sometime is going to be sooner than you think. And then all the fears, the thing you were afraid of, then there's no justification for them. There's no justification when you're dead. What I mean by that is, I had a friend one time, just the one time. No, I had a friend who had terminal cancer. And he was very okay with it. He was a lovely spiritual man. You know, like he rang up the funeral home himself because he had a love of wood. He used to work with wood. And he thought it was a terrible waste of wood to build a coffin, put him in it, and then burn the whole thing. So he rang them up and was like, I want to order a funeral. And okay, and who's it for? Me. So anyway, he got it organized so he didn't have a coffin. And one of the last times I spoke to him, he was taking care of all his affairs, selling things, taking care of his partner, talking to anybody he needed to talk to, taking care of all the practical stuff, like organizing his own funeral. And I only spoke to him on the phone. I remember very clearly him saying, you know what, John, I spent my whole life being afraid of things. And now I see it was all the things I was afraid of, there was no need to be afraid of them. It was pointless. And man, those words penetrated me to my core and messed me up for a long time. Because I was riddled with fears. I felt. And I was like, oh wow. What's wrong with me? Why can't I be just like my friend and, not have no fear? It only dawned on me many years later that, when you're close to death, of course you're going to be in that headspace because there's no consequences to anything that you do, because a lot of fear is to do with consequences. And he was facing into no consequences. And you see that in movies like Groundhog Day, where it dawns on the guy that it doesn't matter what he does, it's going to be a new day in the morning and there'll be no consequences. And of course he goes wild, kills himself, robs banks, dresses up as Clint Eastwood, the whole bit. It's a very human response. So of course my friend who's very close to death is going to say there's no consequences, but consequences are part of why we're afraid. But ultimately he was right in a paradoxical kind of way, because he was saying there's all the things I was afraid of, I didn't need to be afraid of them. And that's true. All the things we're afraid of, all the things I'm afraid of, you're afraid of, ultimately we live in a dream for which there are no real consequences. There are consequences within the dream, but not outside it. And outside it is where we go to every night in deep dreamless sleep. So it's where we came from, where we go back to. So in that place, everything that happens here, there's no consequences. It is a little bit like playing a video game. If you die in a video game, it doesn't matter. You can just play another game. That's not to say you don't take it seriously. It's very important to take the game seriously. But balancing that with fear is something I've learned. It's not my natural state. That's the thing. And my natural state is the acceptance of love. And again, these are easy little words to here, they sound kind of lovely, and it's easy to kind of feel, oh yeah, the acceptance of love. Accepting love is not easy, because that's the end of fear. That's the end of all the sad stories. That's the end of so much. You have to let go of so much to really accept love as the reality that it is. Love doesn't care whether you do or not. Love is just going to be love. It's just going to do its thing. But you can dress it up in lots of different ways. The spiritual life is this, the spiritual life is that. But when you get down to it, it is this. It's the unlearning of fear and the acceptance of love. And those two are not together by accident. Fear and love, or fear is the thing that makes it hard to accept love. To accept that the reality is love. That you're love, I'm love. The rocks are love, the trees are love, the grass is love, the sky is love, everything is love. And it's all for you. When you really let that in, it's pretty wild. And when you let it in, there's no fear. Not that letting in love gets rid of fear, but you realize that there was never, that fear, what felt like such a palpable, real thing, when you let in that fundamentally everything is love, you realize it never existed in the first place. That's what I mean about there's no fear. It disappears. But don't feel like you have to hold on to that state. It's always a bad idea to try and hold on to anything in the spiritual life. You can have this instant of knowledge, and then it can pass, and then you can be afraid again, and then it'll come again, and it'll go again. That's okay. But even having that knowledge, that little instant of knowledge, makes a big difference.